This video is sponsored by Sakurako. So coming off of the previous chapter, we saw All For One going for his final gambit against Bakugo and Shigaraki, an attempt to finally make himself complete by making this giant meat missile thing from a combination of all of his quirks. However, it only ended in him getting defeated by Bakugo's final onslaught. And we're seeing the result of it in the beginning of this chapter, where All For One has regressed to a freaking baby. I mean, we knew this was going to happen because it was said multiple times by All Might that it's inevitable, considering that he has been progressively rewinding from the reverse-engineered Eri quirk that Dr. Yujiko made for him. And as he's crawling, All For One says, "I'm almost there. I just need to give Tomura my quirk. My consumed consciousness will strengthen and the ultimate body will be mine. Looking at Tomura, the part of me inside him. If I take Tomura's body, I'll be able to steal one for all." So that's pretty interesting that he says that. And I'll come back to it because it might give us insight into something that may or may not happen. I mean, he's not taking over Shigaraki, obviously, but I feel like there's something else that needs to come of this. But Bakugo, barely conscious, still standing there, still standing in All For One's way, stopping him from completing his goal. And baby All For One is like freaking out because Bakugo is still there. And as Bakugo's about to like collapse from exhaustion, keep in mind that he just literally came back to life from being dead for like, I don't know how many minutes, but multiple minutes, way longer than any human should be dead, if that makes sense. On top of like the ultimate onslaught that he just gave to All For One, and he has this flashback of talking to Kirishima when he says standing through anything makes you crazy strong. And that gives Bakugo the final boost that he needs to regain his footing and stand up once again. And he's like, my victory needs to be perfect, got it? And this is awesome because, this is the same thing that All Might did back in his fight against All For One. I love the All Might parallels in this series between Izuku and Bakugo. And baby All For One's like, stay away! And he launches a drill spike quirk at him. I guess this is implied to be the very first quirk ever, right? I guess this is the quirk that his mom had, who is, I guess, said to be the first quirk user, or that's all the info. Or as far as we know. I mean, I guess she was the first one. But you're thinking that Bakugo is going to get stabbed by this thing, but he actually catches it with his teeth and explodes it. And he's like, nighty-night, All For One. And that was it. That was All For One's last move, which caused him to reach the point of no return. And he just starts freaking out and just starts dissolving and rewinding back into a fetus, and then eventually into an egg. And we see all of these stolen quirk vestiges within him like dissipating as well. We also see Hawks in there. But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Sakurako. Sakurako is a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box. Sakurako is also supporting local Japanese snack makers, because each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese tea and a special Japanese tableware. It also comes with this awesome booklet that gives you information on all of the snacks in the box, as well as information about Japan and its culture. This month's box is New Year's in Hiroshima. This month, Sakurako embarks on a special journey to Hiroshima, partnering with the Hiroshima government to bring you a unique box of delicacies and cultural treasures. Immerse yourself in the breathtaking nature and historic landmarks of Hiroshima, a prefecture renowned for its resilience and beauty. Delight in a curated selection of Hiroshima's finest treats like lemon mochi, banana baumkuchen, New Year's senbai, and omikuji candy. All pairs perfectly with their fragrant matcha adzuki tea. Complete your cultural experience with a beautiful neko furoshiki, a traditional Japanese wrapping cloth. So first, we always have to try the tea that we get with Sakurako every month because it pairs with everything in the box. And this month, it's the adzuki tea. This is apparently made by boiling roasted adzuki beans. I never had these before, since I'm American. But it has a really nice, gentle flavor to it that accentuates the bean sweetness. Then I tried the taiyaki. I absolutely love these things. The doughy texture is amazing, and the sweet bean paste filling just pairs with it so well. I also tried the Satuchi Hasaku jelly. This surprised me because it's just like a jelly inside of a pouch, and it tastes just as good as it looks. The Hasaku is a Japanese citrus citrus fruit. I've never tried it before, but it's like a cross between a peach, an apple, and a lemon. So good. So guys, if you want to start the New Year's in the best way for you or your loved ones, pick up a Sakurako box. And of course, you can get that through the link in my description, but I'll also sweeten the deal because if you use code Zhoniin, you're going to get $5 off of your first box. Thanks, guys. And he's like, the stolen quirk factors, they're going back to their users. Nah, not happening. Way too big of a fan service. So it's like, all right, Horikoshi, you want to break the fourth wall now, that's fine. But it's like, why tell us that you could have did it, but you decided not to? I'm not saying that he needs to do it. Like, I don't really care if all of the stolen quirks go back. I mean, the most significant one, as far as I know, is Hawks's, right? It's like, you could have just did it. I don't think anybody really would have been bothered by it. But this isn't Hawks dying. It's just this stolen quirk vest. It's like the real Hawks is still alive. He just doesn't have a quirk because, I don't know, just so that I guess his vestige could have its moment in these last two chapters. So by proxy, Hawks did do something to aid in the final war. But All for One just goes back to nothingness. Like, even what comes before the egg, I can't say it on YouTube, but you know what I mean. And he's seemingly dead. Like, All for One finally defeated a character that, you know, we and I personally have been following for the last 5+ years. And that's a pretty interesting ending for him, but I just would have liked to see a more gruesome outcome for him, a more satisfying ending. I'm not saying that this is bad. I honestly don't think that. It's just slightly underwhelming because he is so despicable and has been built up so much. Like, he's been built up to be even more despicable, even more of a big bad than Shigaraki. I mean, for sure. And his ending just seems a little tame. I mean, yeah, you know, in his final moments, he was pathetic and groveling and screaming, no, 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 you know, as a baby. But I just would have liked to see Shigaraki give him the, you know, the final DK, because it would have came full circle. You know what I mean? Like, All for One is implied to have orchestrated everything that has to do with Tenko becoming Shigaraki. So I just thought it would have been fitting if Shigaraki was the one to do the deed and just decay him in like a gruesome manner. Like, whatever fate was destined for All Might, maybe Shigaraki could have just did that to All for One, you know? But no, this is it. And it takes me back to what I was saying in the beginning of the video with All for One saying that the part of him inside of Tomura went out. Without using that trump card, I can still win this. So either that just means nothing now, since it's just, I guess, was the wishful thinking of a failing man here, or there is still a fragment of the vestige of All for One's consciousness inside of Shigaraki. And then maybe we'll get some resolution there, possibly. Because I've also said it before many times, and sorry if I'm repeating myself, I kind of just have to say for the new viewers that come to these videos. Also, subscribe if you haven't already. Like, if you're a recurring viewer of my videos, guys, just give me a subscription. You'll always have the new videos in your subscription feed as soon as they come out. You won't have to wait for it to show up in your suggested, but we still haven't seen, like, the point of where All for One gave Tenko, aka, you know, Lil Shiggy, the DK quirk, because it's heavily implied that Tenko was born quirkless like Izuku, and then, you know, Shigaraki gave him the DK quirk so that he could accidentally kill his family, and then he could groom him to become the vessel of evil, the symbol of evil, the symbol of hate, whatever he's calling him, I forget. But that still could be revealed because, you know, we are going into the final fight of the series here with Shigaraki versus Izuku, and Tenko is going to play a huge part in that, so maybe that will be revealed later on, but I just hope there's at least a little shred of All for One still inside of the quirk factor that Shigaraki currently has, just so he can get like that little final piece of his character arc, which I'm not saying is going anywhere meaningful. Shigaraki is beyond repair at this point, and it will ultimately be Tenko who is saved and not him. I mean, we all know that's going to happen. It was foreshadowed, but man, it just would have been cool narratively to see it come full circle. But I digress. I'm glad that Bakugo is getting the victory here, though. He has legitimately defeated All for One. Not exclusively as an individual, of course. You know, we've talked about it a few times before with the trickle down of the hero support throughout the last year and a half of chapters here, and the butterfly effect analogy that Horikoshi has put in front of us. But this is Bakugo's, you know, final ultimate part in the series, him defeating All for One, which I think is fitting, and I like the way that Horikoshi set it up, because he is the deuteragonist, so, you know, let him get that big win. And, you know, he is like the successor to All Might just as much as Izuku is. So let him finish, you know, the final battle here, or at least the first part of it. But then we're getting a flashback to the heroes talking, which says a few days before the final war that we went into or currently in. And it's like Best Jeanist talking to Bakugo, Izuku, Nejiri, Tamaki, Edgeshot, and Mirko. And they're basically talking about like where the battle should be taking place and who needs to be evacuated and who needs to stay. And it boils down to Best Jeanist saying that he'd rather fight All for One because he wants to rule. Therefore, he's just not going to kill everybody because then there would be no one to rule. Like, All for One does have a motive here. I mean, he even says it in the beginning of this chapter. He's like, I want everyone to see me forever and ever. Like, his machinations were softly revealed at the beginning of this arc. When Aoyama said that All for One said that he basically wanted to become like the communist overlord of the world, where he would have like these super powerful quirks that gave everybody like basic utilities, and that they would be reliant on him for them, for like water, food, electricity, you know, stuff like that. So they're like, yeah, we can fight him because he's somewhat level-headed and we know what he will and won't do. However, with Shigaraki, on the other hand, he is completely unhinged at this point. He has nothing left, no shred of morality. He's in like a full-blown psychosis. Like, he says that he's become destruction personified. He'll just destroy anything. He'll kill anyone. He doesn't want to rule, he just wants to destroy. And I like that Horikoshi put this out here because it's setting us up for the, you know, final act here. And it's getting us prepared for like Izuku's final opponent's mindset here. He's not like All for One or the other typical, I guess, final battle manga villains, if you will. He just wants to destroy. And he even says that like Japan has 378,000 square kilometers of land. It won't take me even a week to erase it from the map. Because if he bores vertically with decay, meaning that like if he sends decay beneath the ground rather than just destroying the surface, he'll be able to destroy instantly much faster and it'll spread at a more devastating rate. So I guess he's going to do that at some point, or it's just like a threat. I mean, it looks like he is doing it in this sequence, but I'm not really sure if it is successfully happening. I mean, we do see the destruction and like waves crashing over, but I guess this is happening and he did do it, or at least partly. Obviously, he didn't destroy all of Japan. And we see him continuing to fight against Izuku here. Izuku still in the battle using Gear Shift, Fajin, and Danger Sense, which is like the main strategy here to be fast enough to contend with Shigaraki and, you know, using Danger Sense to not get touched by him. Because, you know, if you get touched by Shigaraki, it's game over. All he needs to do is just touch you once and you'll get decayed. And Shigaraki is also acknowledging that All for One has died. And all he really says is like, yeah, he deserved to die because he didn't destroy Bakugo. But, you know, I'm thankful for him because he made me stronger. Because now I'm fast enough to match Izuku's speed. So that might just be the end of All for One. Unless, you know, like I said, there is like a shard of a vestige in him. But, you know, I do think we're going to go back into the All for One vestige world. Especially what's happening at the end here. Because he like grazes Izuku's face. I guess he didn't do enough to be able to decay him because while his fingers do look like they're making contact, Izuku is so fast that he like knife hand chops through his fingers. So I guess he did it fast enough to stop the decay from activating. However, he didn't stop Shigaraki from using All for One on him because Shigaraki takes the fourth user's quirk, Danger Sense, from him, which is wild. I did not expect this to happen. This is a pretty cool twist. So we know that Shigaraki is capable of taking one for all from Izuku. I mean, this is what All for One was working towards for like 100 years, or, you know, not 100 exactly, but a lot of years, a lot of decades. He needed hatred strong enough to overcome the failsafe that One for All just magically has in it for some reason to be able to stop itself from being taken by All for One. And Shigaraki has that. Like, that's why All for One wanted to transfer himself to Shigaraki and take over his body. It was what he said to be the ultimate vessel. So now we're seeing the beginning of it, and he didn't just straight up take the full One for All quirk factor. Like, he just took a portion of it, which is fascinating. I didn't know that you could do that, but, you know, we're learning new stuff on the fly here. Like, the quirk singularity is happening before our eyes in this fight. even with All For One in the previous fight as well, but he took Danger Sense from Izuku, which is one of his crucial quirks in defending himself against Shigaraki here. Like I said, he needs that to be able to judge the oncoming strikes from Shigaraki to avoid them to not be decayed. So now he doesn't have, Danger Sense, aka Spider Sense anymore, and he's at a severe disadvantage. Another interesting thing is that, pretty sure that the Shinomori, the fourth user of One For All, his vestige will probably show up in the All For One vestige world. Meaning that I think Shigaraki is also going to take Float from Izuku as well. And we know that Float belonged to Nana Shimura, the grandmother of Tenko Shimura, who eventually becomes Tomura Shigaraki. So her vestige is likely going to have her moment with Shigaraki. And maybe it's at that point when his true history and origin is revealed, with All For One giving him decay and all that stuff. And of course, that's ultimately going to lead to Izuku probably, with all due respect, Togno Jutsuing Tenko out of him. And then I guess his body somehow becomes Tenko or something, and then we'll go from there. But let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys, and if you liked it, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.